everybody. Nikki Burnett here, Taste Life Nutrition Radio, streaming live on KUHSdenver.com, where we have, turn all my music down, today we have Sally Lotz, who is a writer. She's a writing coach. She does all kinds of amazing things to help people. Writing, yes, but today we're going to talk about how writing can help with managing health issues, right? So I think writing can be super meditative. We write when we are, we're just talking about writing for our gratitude journals and that kind of thing. So I love Sally's approach and all of the things that she is going to have to say about her history, what brought her here, and we'll jump into it. So Sally, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. This is going to be a really fun talk, so I'm grateful that you're here. But of course, first, we start the show with gratitude. Oh, I got to start my videos, my other videos. And so, as always, we start the show with gratitude because gratitude can change the world. I truly believe that. I think it's important that we sit back and look at the amazing gifts that we've been given, even if there's only one. As Sally, you said a few minutes ago, a cup of coffee, that can be a gift, and that can be something that we're grateful for. So, Sally, what are you grateful for today?
Well, it might sound a little cliche, but I have a lot of people in my life who are sick, who are hospitalized, who have a lot of immune disorders, and I am healthy. And so I am very grateful that I am healthy and I don't have to, have a lot of doctor visits and medications, and I take care of myself and I'm healthy. So
it is.
That's a big grateful thing.
It is. And that is we are in a situation, I say this a lot, but we're in a situation where there's a lot of illness, a lot of fear, and a lot of fear around being sick, right? And then a lot of confusion on how to manage that, how to get out of that, which of course is why I do what I do. But it's when you have your health, you have everything, and when you don't, it can really bring you down. And that's I believe that we all have these amazing big jobs to do in life, right? We have these things that we're put here to do, these God-given gifts. When we don't feel good, we can't do them. And so
exactly.
Yeah. We got to feel good. So, what am I grateful for today? I think that I've made the decision to drive up to go see my dad. So I'll get to spend time with him here in a week or so. Yeah, about a week. And go hang out with him for a few days and see him and just have a little bit of fun with him. So it's about a 14-hour drive. So funny enough, I really enjoy those drives because I get through so many books that I want to get through. And I get to stop off in the middle and hang out with my brother and sister-in-law and my niece and then go see him. So take one of my dogs. Anyway, it's a nice trip. It's nice to just kind of go.
Sounds nice.
Yeah, be able to spend a little time. So that's what I'm grateful for, the ability to be able to do those things. So anyway, that's me for today. So let's do this. Let's jump into a little bit of your story, how you got to where you are. You have a really interesting story. So however much of that you want to share about your history. And then, what motivates you? What excites you about what you're doing today?
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I know. I used to not think my story was interesting, and I never told anybody. And then as I started telling it, I kept getting that affirmation that, oh, yeah, I guess I did struggle. I did do a lot. But I grew up in one of the world's biggest and oldest doomsday cults. And an extremely abusive home.
What is it? Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but a doomsday cult.
A doomsday cult. So a doomsday cult believes the world is going to end at any moment, and that is their message to go out and save the world so that you don't die when the end of the world comes.
So you don't die when the end of the world comes. So when the end of the world comes, what happens?
If you are part of this cult, then you will be saved.
Mm-hmm.
You will be a survivor. You will live on paradise earth.
Okay.
I'm not giving the name away.
Yep,
I want to see if people can guess it.
Yep.
You will live in paradise earth forever. And if you do not become part of this cult, you will die when their God destroys the world.
Okay.
And so that's what I was taught as a child. I was told to go door to door, as an 8 and a 9-year-old, 10-year-old, and basically the lives of the people who I was talking to was in my hands. If I did not convince them with a magazine or my cute little face, whatever, that they were going to die in Armageddon, then that was my fault. And so I'm telling you this because you can see kind of the pressure and the fear that's building up in a child.
Oh my gosh, that's
and
amazing.
Being forced to talk to strangers.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the other hand, I was told I was never going to ever be good enough, no matter how hard I tried to make it. I might make it to paradise, but there was a strong possibility that I wouldn't. So very much that was my childhood, as well as my home. My mother, my stepfather was emotionally abusive, physically abusive, and sexually abusive. And I had no recourse, or my sister or my little sisters. We were just told to rely on their God, Jehovah, and he would make it okay. And I would be okay. I was always very creative as a child, and I was writing, but I was not allowed to pursue any career or education because it was not needed. So
because
my writing life was, all my stuff was like, no, you're just going to go door to door and you're going to get married and have a husband and he's going to take care of you. So you don't need an education. So that was my life. So I was kicked out of the house at age 16 for having a boyfriend who was not part of the cult. And I say boyfriend, we basically held hands in the school hallway. But as it turned out, it was good for me to get out. And I never dealt with that past. I did what you do, especially when you're a kid. That was behind me. I'm moving forward. I have a new life. So it didn't take long for me, I did move on and I tried to acclimate in school and, my senior year and try to be, a student. And I got married then very young. I was 20. I turned 21 like a couple days after I got married. So obviously not a good choice. And but I didn't know any better at the time. I was not in the cult, but I did not grow as a person. I didn't do that process of healing and discovering myself. So I went to what felt comfortable. And that marriage, I would say, like, I had three sons fairly quickly, and before I was 30, I was about 27, 28, I started to get to this point in my life where I couldn't eat. Everything made me sick. I couldn't leave the house. I physically got sick trying to leave the house. And everybody was like, nobody was helpful. And I didn't have a spouse who was helpful. His thing was just get up and go do it. What's wrong with you? And it turned out that it was severe anxiety and depression. And that is how I learned at this point about writing to heal, because my therapist, I wasn't writing fiction and I wasn't writing a memoir. He told me to write letters to the people in my past and just spew everything out that I needed to get off my chest and uncover things that I had forgotten about, and then tear them up.
So
don't do anything with them. Just tear them up. Throw them away.
I think, just super quick for anybody who's listening, I think that, we say this a lot, but I hope that those who are out there really take this to heart, that the mental and emotional create the physical and vice versa, right? So you can end up kind of going in this, really ugly, hard downward spiral because of history, because of traumatic experiences, and it can create you were physically sick because of this. And so often we don't connect the dots. And I say this from personal experience, that we as practitioners have to think outside. But I love biochemistry, right? The mental and emotional is outside of really what I know, except for what I learned in continuing education and conferences. It's not my background. And so I have to look at a client and look at their situation, look at their biochemistry, right, their labs and their symptoms and these things, but then I have to take my assessment, my analysis, and look at what have they experienced in their life, what did their mom experience in their life, potentially, what is it that could have, besides just the typical things that could have started this downhill slide that they've been going on. And we have to take into account this piece, whatever big or small trauma experience, whatever has happened, because it's huge.
Yeah. And I know things have changed a lot. There's been more discoveries and more research since I went through this process. I don't know that anybody would have me write what happened now. There's other treatments and there's other therapies, but for me, writing by hand really helped me to get these things out. And at the same time, I forgot when you were talking, it reminded me that I was also working with a practitioner who was helping me with my diet, because I couldn't eat. Like my whole system was like, was shutting down. It was like they were saying I had hepatitis, which that's what all my symptoms were like. But I didn't. It was literally my body was just, shutting itself down because I needed to take care of myself mentally and emotionally. So that's where I started writing. And then I started, through that healing process, I was working with a therapist. I was not doing this on my own. I want to encourage that, because you could take yourself into places that, that are harmful.
Agreed.
And to yourself. So I went through that process, and then I ended up getting divorced because my husband did not like the healed me, or the version of me who was getting better, because I was not that little dutiful wife. I was actually having thoughts and wanted to do things my own way. So that relationship ended, and I took some time to do some more writing, and I started doing some poetry and just writing in a journal, daily things that were going on, and then starting to get a little more creative with thoughts that were coming to me, and memories, and just writing little stories. But I kept them very close and private, like I said, in a little journal. Even some song lyrics, they would just start popping into my head, and I would just start writing them down. But it wasn't until I had a really good friend, probably 10 years later, who encouraged me that I should start writing, because I had these stories and I never shared them. And so I just started taking classes and going to different workshops and learning about the structure of writing and how to write. But always, I started seeing a pattern, though, in my books, in my stories, was always an underdog. Whether it was, I write for children, so it was always an underdog who was misunderstood by everyone else in their life. But then they always came out in the end as the winner. And so that is what I really encourage people when they're writing. You can take control of the story, and you can do whatever you want with that character and have them win. Yeah.
Very cool. I think I say that a lot, and real quick too, I have to give a quick shout out to Sabrina Victoria, who just sent us both a message saying that we rock, and yes, we do. Thanks, Sabrina.
Yay, Sabrina!
Sabrina is the one who introduced us. If you ladies out there, any of you entrepreneurs, need a really solid group of women to be around, Her Nation is an amazing organization. And so again, that's how Sally and I met. Sabrina's amazing. Sabrina's been on my show. I've been on hers. All of the good things. So Didn't mean to interrupt, but I wanted to make
it's
sure
okay.
yeah.
I'm a writing coach because of Sabrina. When
Yeah,
I met her,
amazing.
I was a small business coach, and so I'm a writing coach now. Because the last thing I wrote, which it was for children, it was my memoir, but I turned it into a piece of fiction so that I could bring an authentic voice to kids who would read something, you know, and I could share and build awareness about what went on in the cult and also mental health.
Yeah.
And just things that kids don't realize other people in their sphere may be going through.
Yeah.
Because we all have that smile on our face, right? Or we're the shy kid in the back of the class, or we're the loud kid in the front of the class. And so it's to build awareness. And so that's something that I coach too for writing is you don't have to write your life story as a memoir. You can change it to a piece of fiction and you have more control.
Go ahead, sorry.
No, go ahead.
So I think when the word control comes up, I appreciate it so much because I say this a lot when it comes to our health. Although we may not feel like we have control, we do. I think a lot of times the control is taken away from us. Our power is taken away from us, whether it's by your situation that you dealt with family, with marriage, with if you are sick and you dealt with this too, and seeing doctors who are like, you're fine, I don't, you know, and it's just this chipping away at your power and chipping away at your power. And what came to me as you were saying this is if you can find your control in writing, in my mind, you're also finding your control in yourself. Just a little bit more and a little bit more. I've not experienced that. It just kind of makes sense to me. Do you agree?
Yeah, I agree. And I also want to say, we're talking about writing, but you don't have to be a writer to write. It doesn't have to be good.
Right, yeah.
It just have to get a pen and paper out and write in a journal. That's all you have to do. And nobody's going to see it except for yourself. So, because I get a lot of people who say I'm not a writer and they get discouraged right away. And it's like, well, I saw you did that watercolor at the paint and sip class. You know, are you a painter? No. I said, did you enjoy doing that? Yes. I said, okay, you don't have to be a writer. Just get a piece of a journal that you like and just write in it.
Yeah.
And it's amazing what happens.
Well, and just journaling in and of itself can be such a meditative, eye-opening, downloading kind of experience. I think, yeah. And I'm not great at journaling, but I think that it really, I'm working on it, right? Just, everything's a practice, but taking that time to really sit, you know, it's part of the gratitude. So I try to do a little bit of both. It's the gratitude, it's the gratitude journaling, and then more, you know, I try to do my Bible study at the same time. So kind of trying to, for me, integrate all of these things.
I do the same thing.
Do you? Okay.
The first thing in the morning I get up and we talked about this. I write down 3 things that I'm grateful for.
Yep.
Very random things. It could be like a bird I saw or my cup of coffee. But I truly am appreciative of those because it means I have eyes to see. I can hear. I can smell. I'm healthy, you know. And those things in turn, a lot of them end up in my writing because I'm using all my senses to be grateful for the things around me. And it's kind of like a twisty thing, but it works.
Yeah, well, it does. And it helps to, when you are sitting in a situation that you were sitting in, that a lot of us have sat in, Sabrina's been in, right? We all know Sabrina's hard and amazing, beautiful story. That if you're able to find some kind of focus on what's good, even if things are really bad, focus on what's good, as small as it may be. It's that energy that keeps you going. It's that goodness that keeps you going, and you know that goodness, it radiates, right? So you create more goodness by being in gratitude. Yeah. So
yeah.
Yeah, and on that is being aware of the negative self-talk, because I think history can really, each of our histories can really, that can really play a role when we don't even know it's playing a role. So it's another practice for me that I have to step back and say, stop saying that, or stop thinking that. You've got to get out of the, it can just sort of cycle sometimes. Just go. You're like, okay, I got to stop that. So anyway, I'll stop there. So continue on. Are you, I guess I do have a question regarding, we're talking about how writing can be healthful and kind of bring you out. Are you did this with your own experience. Do you work with others who are struggling with physical, mental, and emotional health issues, and as you're sort of working together to get them wherever their writing goals are?
Almost everyone that I've worked with has already gone through that struggle.
Okay.
I have worked with two people who thought that they would write their book to give it to somebody, to give back, to give their experience and their wealth of knowledge back. As I was working with them, I could tell that they were not ready to share with the world. Because what was happening is they were going back into that space. And you shouldn't go back into that space and become that abused person, the victim again. You should be past that. So that's what I said early on. I was writing with my therapist. Took me like 10 years to get to the place where I could write to get back. And so with those people, I told them, we need to stop because I can see where this is going and it's hurting you. And your reader is not gonna connect with you. They're gonna see that you're glossing over things and that it's too painful for you to do this. So you need to stop and give it a break. And she was like, oh, thank you. I was feeling that way, but I didn't know what to say. So that I do encourage that if you're to be doing this with a therapist or someone that's, guided with, has the expertise. I'm not a counselor. But I can see when somebody's hurting and when they're, because that's my experience, right? I know what that feels like.
Yeah.
So I just pick up on it. And so if you're going to be writing and you're not completely healed, that you're not well on your journey to becoming that person that's ready to get back, ready to help others, I wouldn't start writing your life story.
I think it's so interesting. I mean, this is why we have coaches. So even though you're not a counselor or a therapist, you have the ability, like you say, because you've been there. But we need somebody to see outside of ourselves. I have a hard time seeing outside of myself. I'm very clear about this. I'm in my little box, and that's what I got. And I need somebody to help me. I'm like, oh, had no idea that was over there, right? So if people are still struggling, it's that what's that book? The Body Keeps the Score. Do you know that book?
No.
Oh, you'll love it.
But I do now.
Yeah. It is a great book. It's fascinating about people and their experiences and their traumatic situations in the past and how it manifests into autoimmune conditions and these physical issues. Fascinating
100%.
book. Read it. I listened to it. It's one of my long trip books, but it's really good. My point to that though is, and anybody else read it, because it will open your eyes to. So I'm all over the place. Sorry.
It's okay. My ADHD brain is keeping up with you.
Okay, good.
Because I'm going like 500 things in my head right now.
Yep. Well, good, because I'll let you go here in just a second. This is top of mind for me because I have a client who I was speaking with yesterday, and she is one of the most hardworking clients I've had. She's very sick. She's doing well. Still work to be done. But she was reading this book, and I can't remember if I told her, if she told her. If she found it doesn't really matter. But she started to. It's like light bulbs started going off when she was reading this book with her own experiences and her own history and her own past. And I think that when we have these realizations, it gives us then the ability to to start to figure it out, start to deal with it. And then again, the realization that the mental and emotional plays such a huge role in our physical, because the emotions sit in our tissues, right? And so anyway, I'll stop there. I know you have a lot you want to say, but it is it's just so important for anybody who's struggling to think about that and look outside of what you think is there or is not there, and dig. I mean, dig. We got to dig.
Yeah, and it's interesting. So you were talking about the light bulb moments. And so when I am working with a client and I am reading their words and I'm seeing that they are not, that they're really holding back because they don't want to be vulnerable, they don't want to be transparent. And I'm talking again about my clients and writers who are far beyond that stage of going back into, having to go back into therapy or working with somebody. And they're like, yeah, but I don't really want to tell people that. It's like, is your book for these people? Do you want them to connect to you? Do you want them to have those light bulb moments? Do you want them to see in you what they see in themselves so that they will come to you for help? Because these are coaches I'm working with. And they suddenly get their light bulb moment. Oh, okay, I guess I should share that, because that is why people are connecting to me. That is why my clients are coming to me for coaching. I have to tell them I've been there, done that.
Yeah.
And it's kind of fun to watch them just go. Like, they realize, I can say that. I can do that. I can be as transparent as I want to be. So that's, and when you're reading and you're listening to these books and you're having those light bulb moments, it's because that person who wrote the book has probably gone through what you're talking about or has a lot of experience in that area, and they're being very transparent, and they may be vulnerable with you and just telling you like it is. It's because that's what they have in their heart and their head.
Yeah.
So, and they were able to get it out and give it back in a way that's helpful. And when I see broken people who haven't healed, it's, they just haven't, I don't know how to explain it. I can just see it.
Yeah.
I'm sure you can see that too,
Yeah. Yeah. So how do you, so obviously you tell them this isn't your time to write this book. Is it, and I know, I guess I'm wondering, they have to take, essentially, they're taking a break so they can go do more of their own healing and then come back to it. And so I know it's different for everyone, but, can they do it I know this is really actually kind of a silly question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Because I know when people want to write a book, I mean, if I started writing a book, I'm like, I want to start it and I want to get it done.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because my process is fast.
Yeah.
I believe in writing in a season. So it's 30, 60, or 90 days to write your first draft of your book. And so you really have to be in that mindset emotionally, spiritually, mentally, whatever you need. You have to be in that mindset so that your creativity as well, so that you can stay in that space and not shift. If you're writing and you pick something up and work on it and then you put it down and you come back to it a year later, you're not in the same space.
Right.
You're in a completely different space mentally and emotionally than you were.
Yeah.
And then you're having to take yourself back there. So, in fact, the lady I was working with, she was on the 30-day program, and that's when I shut her down because she wasn't ready. But
how long did it take her to come back to it? Or
she hasn't come back yet.
Hasn't yet. Okay.
She hasn't come back yet. Yeah. But I keep checking in with her and seeing how she's doing. So she's almost there.
Is she? So she's working through it.
She is, because what happened is she dug something up. And so actually now she's writing a different book.
Oh.
Because I suggested to her the book that she was writing, not the book she needs to write. It's the other book.
That's so cool.
And that's the one she's going to start working on.
I love that.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, it's okay. It already.
Yeah. No, it happens to me all the time. So a few minutes ago, though, you were talking about your ADHD brain, which is
Yes.
you work with these people as well too. And I've never been diagnosed. I'm quite sure I'm not, but I know I am a bit scatterbrained. And sometimes I do have a hard time finishing projects. They get done. But I guess I'm curious, especially with writing these books quickly, 30, 60, 90 days. If you're working with someone who is a true ADHD sort of personality, how do you help them through that?
Well, ADHD people have a superpower called hyperfocus.
Mm.
So I have literally sat down and started to write. I've had fire engines and police cars like on the other side of my window, and I haven't heard them.
Yeah.
We could sit. We have time blindness, so it's not scatterbrainedness like most people think.
Yeah.
There's so many different variables. Like I said, time blindness, hyperfocus. We can do 6 things at once. But when I'm working with somebody, we have a time management program that I start with them before we get started, and we map out their time so they know on a schedule what we're going to do. ADHDers, we need a schedule. We need a calendar that says right now I'm supposed to be doing this. And so with reminders and, follow-ups, and that's part of the thing I do with them is check in. How are you doing? What happened?
Mm-hmm.
Why didn't you write? Okay, let's fix that.
Mm-hmm.
That's part of what I give them, because I know it's hard.
Mm-hmm.
Even for people without ADHD, it's hard.
It's really hard. And I discovered something myself. Again, having a hard time to think outside of your own box. For years, I have been told to calendar block, right? And that's what I would do. I would calendar block basically on a weekly basis.
Mm-hmm.
And I wouldn't do it. It was like I got too much other stuff to do. Clients come first. It doesn't work this way. And I had a download the beginning of this year. Instead of doing it on a weekly basis, do certain things every other week. So I have a full week to focus. And nobody's ever told me this. I never heard of this anywhere. And it made so much sense. And it has been, last week was my week to focus on the business. I still did client stuff, but I didn't do, very little networking, very little any of this other stuff. So it's every other week is networking, and every other week is working on the business. I got so much done. Yeah. It was the most exciting thing. It was amazing.
Yeah, I encourage people when we're working on their time is to set it up for what works for them. Not what works for me.
Yeah.
And if their writing time rolls around and they can't write, you don't go do something else. You take that time and you stay in wherever your writing space is. I encourage them to do something healthy, which might be some yoga or go for a walk, but don't give that creative time up to busyness. Don't give it up to a client. Don't give it up to doing your bookkeeping. Don't give it up to networking.
Yes, yeah.
You've saved that spot, and maybe you can't write, but you still need that creativeness and that time mentally and physically. So don't give it up. Because then the next day rolls around, and you'll go, well, I didn't do it last week, and I'm okay, so I'm going to give it up this week. But
yeah, it's amazing just changing things up a little bit can make things so much more effective. I had no idea. It's really good. Cool. So what are some other practical tools, advice, guidance that you would give your clients for getting it going? Whether it's getting out or getting into whatever they want to write, or how they continue it, how they finish it. I think sometimes just finishing can be hard. What do you do?
Starting and finishing are the two hardest things. I encourage people to really, before they start writing, the 2 or 3 big things, but the 2 big things: why Why are you writing?
Yeah.
Know exactly why you're writing and write it down on an index card, put it on your phone screen, put it all over the place. If it's for yourself, that's fine. If it's because you want to give back, it's fine. There's no right or wrong. It's your reason. And the second reason is who you're writing for. If you're writing for clients, are you writing for kids? Are you writing for adults? You're writing your memoir? You gotta know what that is before you start writing. And I typically tell people, what's your favorite thing to read or listen to? That's where you start. So if your favorite thing is to listen to self-help books, then that's where you should start.
Interesting. Yeah.
But don't listen to what other people are telling you. You think you should write. You write what you want to do.
Yeah.
You know, don't be constricted and feel like you're under some obligation, you know, to write a self-help book because that's what everybody else tells you. Maybe you want to write your story as a sci-fi romance. I don't know.
Yeah, sure.
So it's be true to yourself. You will save a lot of heartache during the writing process if you're true to yourself, which is the ultimate thing, right?
Yeah.
That's your power.
Yeah. So in your coaching, when you're working with people, I mean, I'm assuming, you know, you've got your 30, 60, 90 day set to get it. It's you said the first draft, essentially?
Yeah.
Yeah. So do you also do the editing? Do you help with how to go and get it published and all of that stuff?
I don't do editing and I don't publish, but I do is
I get it.
Before we start, we get you started so that your first draft is not a disaster like most people when they're done.
Yeah.
I have a wealth of people around me who I work with and who I recommend. And so with my clients, you ready for an editor? I will give them 3 names and I will let them choose. But I go with them.
Nice.
I'm in their back pocket because you don't always know what to ask. You don't always know, you know, if this person's a good fit. So I'm with them as we go through the process. And then they can decide if they want to go traditional publishing, if they want to publish self, if they want a hybrid publisher. I have all those options for them to move forward. And it's a lot of connections that I made. Thank you, Sabrina. A lot of connections that I've made over time, and because I'm a professional writer, I have that background. So I think that's what sets me apart. Is I not just the speed and writing in a season, but I stay with my clients and help them through the rest of that process.
Yeah, which is so helpful. I mean, I think that I need people to hold my hand a lot. And it can be so helpful to have people hold my hand. But that's also, you know, what I do with my clients. Is that's my goal with them, especially in my private consultations. It is, I'm here to hold your hand when you need it. You know, not everybody needs it all the time.
Right, and tell you the options that maybe you don't know.
Yeah, because
that are out there, because you have just this one focus of, I'm going to write a book and put it on Amazon. And that's all you know. Yeah. But there's a whole world out there that I could show you. Yeah. And I'll hold your hand.
I love that. It is so good.
We can have coffee together and
yeah. So on that, do you see people in person and virtually, I guess? Yeah.
Locally I have a couple of people that I meet. We meet at the coffee shop or at their house. But most of my people can be anywhere in the world, so there's a lot of virtual. Yeah. Which is, I mean, it's so nice to be able to see. It is nice. Anybody, anywhere. Yeah, I like the in-person though too, because you know it's face to face, and you know, writing can be lonely. Well, so it's like sometimes I need to see a person. Yeah. Being, you know, in my mind, it is part of being a solopreneur
if you're writing, you're being an entrepreneur by getting your stuff out there. It's or
Mm-hmm.
a solopreneur by getting your stuff out there.
Exactly.
And it can be lonely. I have my little team, but my little team is virtual. So I see them every now and then here and there, and they're doing what they do, and I'm like, okay, I'm, in my office seeing clients virtually. So
Yeah, I don't have a little team. It's just me. I don't even have any pets, so it's like.
Oh, okay, we got to change that. I have 3 crazy dogs and a husband, and they certainly keep things fun and.
Yeah, working on it. I'm working on all those things. Yeah.
Oh, it's such good stuff. Okay, so let's talk about your programs, because as you said, you've got the 30, 60, and 90-day program.
Mm-hmm.
Do you do it that way depending on the person and their time? How does all of that work? How do you know what it is or what they need?
I do. It depends upon the person.
Yeah.
I should also say I do have hourly. I call it concierge coaching, because
Sure.
some people already, like you,
Yeah.
they already have a book halfway done, and you're like, I just want help through like the middle of my book, or I want some feedback. Am I going in the right direction?
Mm-hmm.
I need help when I'm done. So I do offer that too. But the 30, 60, 90 is entirely up to the person.
Mm-hmm.
You get the same VIP treatment. I don't use templates, and I don't use formulas with people. And I don't take on a bunch of clients at once, because I give you a Google number, and you can text me whenever you need me. We meet once a week, virtually or in person, and it's very VIP. But I'm holding your hand through the whole process, and leading you. And I might tell you that you're not doing very well, so.
We need that,
I
right?
might, I do give feedback
Mm-hmm.
on writing, and
Yeah.
I believe it needs to be honest, because I want you to be the best that you can be. So I might say something, but I say it with love.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's part of life, it's part of growth, and it's part of being a coach and being coached.
Yeah.
That's why we
Right.
hire you,
Exactly.
is to get the real deal, even if it can be a struggle, because it can
Yeah.
be.
And I might shut you down and say, come back in 6 months. You're not ready. You're not ready, and I don't want to hurt you, and I don't want you to hurt yourself.
Yeah.
And yeah.
What was I going to ask you? Do people come to you who are not sure what they want to write? Yeah? How does that work?
Yeah. So that would be like my concierge, my consulting, coaching. We just sit, brainstorm. You tell me what it is. Tell me what you think it is you want to do. And because my ADHD brain will be spinning while you're talking, I come up with several, options, things that you haven't thought of. Like I was saying, my one client, it was one book. And no, she's writing a completely different book. Another client, she was writing a book, and it's so much information. I said, take half of that, and that's your speaking, because she does speaking. She goes, oh, I never thought of that. It's like, you don't have to tell the world everything in your book. It could be 2 books. So, I do that as well.
Cool. I asked that question, and I'm only going to say this because I'm hoping that maybe it's relatable to other people out there. Everybody says, the general everybody, that you really should write a book, right? It's important to write a book. It gives you credibility. It gives you all of these things. And so I think about writing a book, and my thought is, okay, great. How am I going to write a book as a functional nutritionist that's different than what everybody else who's in functional medicine or functional nutrition that they've already written, right? And so that's kind of why I asked the question, and then if anybody else has that question, because it's hard. I mean, it's hard to be unique, but we can be. I mean, and we are. Each of us is unique.
True.
But,
So think of all the books that are out there about finance.
And health, and
think of all the books that are out there, the Tony Robbins. They all have in my favorite, Jen Sincero, the Badass series.
What is it?
It's the Badass. You are a badass.
Oh, yeah.
So what I encourage my people who I'm working with, and this comes from not using a template and not using a formula, your unique voice needs to shine through in that book. How you talk to your clients needs to shine through. And one tip that I give people is to journal. Pretend like you are the person that you are writing this book for. Okay, so you have a client who's really in need of your help. Journal as that person. What kinds of things would they be writing in their journal? How they're feeling, like, I couldn't get out of bed today because my legs are so heavy and my head itches, and all I want is to go have a soda. Whatever.
Yeah.
Journal as that person, and you will magically start seeing things about how you could help this person and how you do it differently than someone else. You've pitched your business at countless networking events, correct? And
yes.
you have to stand out. So that's how you're going to do your book pitch. You are going to write 3 sentences pitching your book and making it stand out different from somebody else's. It needs to be your calling card in your business, your voice, not just a bestseller.
Yeah.
Not just a book to have a book. So that's what I teach people.
Okay.
I love that people want to write books for their business, but you want people to read it.
Well, yeah, of course.
Right? You're doing all that work and spending all that money. You want somebody to read it. So it's got to be your voice, your unique story.
Yeah.
Which comes from using your experience, this is like turning it back, right? To where we started.
Yeah.
It's back from how you got to where you are. You got to go back and remember some of those things.
So interesting. I think I love that. Well, I say this in healthcare because I'm in healthcare, but it really can go to any type of position, job, company that people hold or develop or grow. Anyway, we tend to so often we do what we do because of our past experience. Right? And I didn't really realize this until, I don't know, it wasn't too long ago. People will ask me why I do what I do or how I got into nutrition. And what I say is God, because I didn't know that that's what I was going to do. I didn't know that that's what I was meant to do. I had, I never put my past experience, even when I decided to go to nutrition school and do all of these things, it was sort of this midlife change in what I was doing to go to nutrition school. I didn't consider the health struggles that I had early on as part of my story in how it moved me through that. It was very subconscious is what I mean. Yeah.
So you can see how if you go and start writing a journal as that person who you want to write a book for, who you think should be reading your book, will bring up those things that maybe you've forgotten about or how you got to where you are, and give you that voice that you need to reach that person.
Yeah. So
because if you just come in, do this, and then you'll be there, that's not helping. That's like a laundry list.
Yeah.
Somebody wants to connect with you when they read that book. They want to feel the feels. They want to know how you can help them. How do you know? You don't know me, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But when they're reading it and they go, my gosh, she's like in my head. She understands me. And I brought up Jen Sincero earlier because her voice is so unique and so strong, and she carries it through her books. It's her, 100%.
Yeah.
She hasn't altered her personality to write a self-help book.
How many books does she have now?
I think she has 5. I have 3 of them.
I think I have 2 of them. I've only read 1.
I'd like to be part of your program, Jen.
Yeah. If you're out there.
I recommend her books all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. Very cool. Okay, let's see. How are we on time? Is there anything that we haven't talked about that you want to talk about that people need to know about you, about the work that you do? Anything?
One of the biggest things, we talked about my book that I wrote that was based on my life. that's fiction, that is one of the biggest things that I help people do. Take your life story and create it as fiction.
Interesting.
Because not everybody's got a memoir, not everybody wants to read a memoir, and they're very hard to sell, traditionally and independently. But fiction, that's why I was saying you can take control. You can take characters from all aspects, parts of your life, and use them instead of just writing a fact-driven memoir. So it's kind of fun.
So essentially, I guess I'm thinking of the movies that say based on true facts, right? But it's still not all fact. Is that kind of what you mean?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. So my book takes place when I'm 15, but I squished my whole life into 3 months. I also didn't use all my siblings. I have 6. I replaced a person, my sister, with another person, and I changed all the names.
Yeah.
But everything else that's in the book happened. It's just who they happen to may have a different name. And yeah.
And so you say you write children's books. Is this book that you're talking about, is it a children's book?
It's children because it's a young adult novel. So young adult is considered a children's book.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so most of your books are young adult?
I write junior high age and young adult. And then I write a lot of stuff that's nonfiction that's for adults about writing.
Sure. Yeah. Writing about writing.
That's the boring stuff. Yeah. Yeah. But writing the fiction, you have to be able to dive into your own creativity, which is your emotions and your senses, and you have to be able to go into that like a method actor and use that. Yeah.
So interesting. I think that's awesome. I think it's so fun. I think that one of these days I'm going to be reaching out to you. Help me.
I hope so.
Brainstorm. I would like to write a book, but like I said, it's sort of just out in the ether a little bit. I don't know. So.
Well, I'm going to keep pulling it back in closer to you.
Okay. Good.
So you can't fight it anymore. It's going to be right here.
Very good. Well, why don't you tell people where you can be found for those who are just needing you, because there are a lot of people who need you.
Well, it's simple. It's my name. So it's Sally Lotz, Lotz as in zebra, .com. That's my website. I have free consultation on there. I'm on Instagram and I'm on LinkedIn as Sally J with the initial J, Lotz. Okay. Apparently there is another one of me out there. So
funny how that happens.
She didn't take the website. So yeah. So I read messages, I read DMs, I love comments. Yeah.
Awesome. Do you ever do workshops or anything?
I do actually. Okay. I do workshops. I love. I'll be doing some of my own coming up in March.
Okay.
I'm also available for writers' retreats. I have a lot of people who don't write and they're doing retreats, and it's like virtual me in, and I'll be there for I'll be the coach for your team. So I do that as well.
I have somebody I might introduce you to, or I will introduce you to. I don't know how the connection will work, but I think it could be an interesting introduction. So I'm going to do that here in a little bit.
I love talking to strangers. Okay.
Good. You'll like him. I think y'all get along, and hopefully maybe y'all can brainstorm some fun stuff.
Okay.
So I'll do that. Cool. All right. Awesome. Well, I'm super grateful that you joined us. Thank you, Sabrina, for hanging out with us.
Thank you, Sabrina.
It's so interesting, and I hope that a lot of people will reach out to you, because I love your approach, and I say this a lot, but it's our history that makes us the amazing people we are, even if our history wasn't so amazing. And I love bringing people on who are here to give and to serve and to love. I will probably say that on every show, because it's true. I think it's so important that we use what we've been given, because it's a lot of times really hard, and we take it and then we give back so much goodness. And that's what you're doing. That's what Sabrina's doing. That's what so many people who I bring on this show, which is what I love so much about it, is their ultimate goal in life, whatever they're doing, because a lot of us have these really hard stories, and they've taken it and they've turned it and they're just giving goodness. And I'm just really grateful for people like the both of you. So
I'm shining my light. That's what I'm trying to do.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. And helping people come out of their own spot. Like, so I'm just going to say this real quick because it just sort of dawned on me. The person who started to write her book and you told her she wasn't ready, she needed to hear that because she needed more help, right? And maybe somebody, it just is one of those things where you were able to push her to continue her healing process. And that's so important when people don't know that they still need to heal.
Yeah. If she had never met me and we never talked about writing, she would never have gone back and gotten that. Or she may have, but it may have taken her a long time. Yeah. And who knows what would have happened in the meantime.
True.
Yeah.
True. All right. Very good. Well, everybody, thank you so much for joining. We're here at 10 a.m. Mountain Time every Wednesday. Where did Wednesday come from?
Thursday. It's Thursday.
Goodness gracious. Every Thursday, 10 a.m. Mountain Time, streaming live on KUHSdenver.com. We'll be back here next week. You can find me at tastelifenutrition.com. You can find me Taste Life Nutrition on all of the social media. Go to the website and you can fill out a free assessment where I'll reach out to you. We'll chat a little bit about what's going on and if I can help or if I know somebody who can help you. My goal is to be a resource and to help in any way that I can. So, of course, we have Soulful Conception, which is my heart. Soulful Conception is creating awareness around building health and optimizing health and reducing symptoms before conception. It can take 4 months to create at least healthy eggs. And if we're in the middle of the throes of symptoms and junk and things that are going on, and like, oh yeah, I'm going to go get pregnant too, whether you're a man or a woman who are, both of you are involved in the process, we need to optimize health in order to have a successful, healthy pregnancy, successful, healthy babies, and it makes an impact for hundreds of years to come. So it's the most beautiful thing. And to me, we were talking a little while ago about control and about being powerful and being empowered. This, in my mind, is one of the most empowering things, is knowing that what I'm doing with my body now and optimizing my health, I have the ability to impact in a positive way hundreds of years ahead. That is massive stuff. So, reach out if you have questions about it. Thank you, Sally. If you want to hang on with me just for a second while I turn everything off, we'll see everybody here next week. Thank you.